calls and I'm
Kaieteur Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio. This is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio 99.1 FM.
Good day, welcome to your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. Field development plans are one of the most detailed documents oil companies must submit to governments when planning to extract oil or gas resources from a particular field. To ensure a proper interrogation of such a document, countries are expected to hire experienced specialists in varying fields to ensure the oil or gas development plan is in keeping with international best practices, and most importantly, are not over-designed to allow for inflated costs. Taking this into consideration, Trinidadian energy strategist Anthony Paul firmly asserts that it is ridiculous for any review of such documents to only take 1 or 2 months. If this occurs, he said, it is evident that the state is not being presented with all the data it needs, and someone is not interested in doing a proper review. In the 2017 assessment of Guyana's oil and gas capacity, the World Bank found that the previous government had put in place a mechanism that involved key government ministries and agencies in an inter-ministerial technical committee on petroleum to ensure all input from relevant agencies in relation to the development, management of the oil sector, and even spending of the revenues garnered. While this is a structure the former administration sought in the early management of the sector, fast-forwarding to 2022, the core management of the industry has been brought under the control of the President's office, with Vice President Barra Jaglio tasked with overseeing the oil and gas industry. The issue with the new mechanism, however, is that a number of areas within the sector remain unresolved, with local and international oil and gas stakeholders continuously highlighting risk areas that could see Guyana becoming a victim of its oil wealth. Meanwhile, President Irfan Ali had promised that the $42.5 million passport office at Lethem that was languishing for years would become operable in 1 month. But after we highlighted issues surrounding the building, it was reportedly opened in 1 day. This disclosure was made by the Regional Democratic Council of the Region 9 District on Thursday. The RDC also pointed out that the doors of the office were opened for the first time to the public on Monday, August 29th. Monday was 1 day after Ali made the promise to residents during an outreach at St. Ignatius Village. The president was forced to make the promise after one of the residents, Daniel James, raised the issue of the new building that never worked. And moving on, opposition leader Aubrey Norton says his party is not to be counted out in the upcoming local government polls, despite calls for a clean voters list ahead of any elections. The opposition chief insisted that the party maintains its call for a clean list, but it has no commitment to not participating in the local polls. When asked whether the party will in fact be going to local government election, as it seems clearer that no move will be made to clean up the list, the opposition leader said that he is unaware that at any stage the opposition said it won't go to the polls without a clean list. And now let's tell you at least 3 persons on Thursday have been left without a place to live after fire ripped through 2 houses at 94 Brutus Street, Agricola, East Bank, Demerara. One of the houses, a two-story wooden home, was completely destroyed. Nothing was left but rubble, while the other house, another two-story building, but made of concrete and wood, was left gutted and partially standing. According to eyewitnesses, the blaze erupted close to 15 hours and started in the two-story wooden house first. That home was occupied by two individuals, a young man by the name of Hari and Haji, a man in his 40s described by neighbors as mentally ill. And just before we head to a short break, let's tell you that Guyana's former permanent representative to the United Nations and former foreign minister, Mr. Rashley Jackson, has died. He was 93. Jackson, who had suffered multiple attacks of stroke, had been ailing for some time now. He reportedly died at his Republic Park, East Bank Demerara home. Jackson was born in New Amsterdam in then British Guyana. He joined the civil service in 1949 and had received a scholarship to study in the United Kingdom in 1954. The time has now moved on to 12 hours 7 in Guyana. We'll take a short break and return with your news.
This is GHK Lal inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues. Immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Not a single bar of service.
Not with us. Digicel officially has the best mobile coverage in Guyana. Be it in Aishalton or in Etteringban, we got you covered. Digicel, better together.
Welcome back. Let's continue with the news. Mark Royden Williams, popularly known as Smalley, who is already on death row for the massacre in Bartica Region 7, was on Thursday sentenced to death for the 2008 murder of GDF member Corporal Ivor Williams. Mark Williams had denied fatally shooting the corporal on the night of January 23, 2008 during an armed confrontation between members of the GDF and gunmen at Buxton. Following a trial, a 12-member jury returned with a guilty verdict for Williams. Justice Kissoon described the crime as brutal and stated that it was a premeditated crime to ambush and entrap members of the disciplined forces who were deployed to restore peace at Buxton. Justice Kissoon cited the AK-47 that were used by Williams and his accomplices to ambush the ranks and noted that the premeditated act was designed to murder and create mayhem. And the child father of 25-year-old Simone Hackett, who was found with her throat slit in a trench at Cummings Lodge, Greater Georgetown, back in 2016, on Thursday denied that he killed the woman. 30-year-old Cleavon Hamilton appeared before Justice Sandil Kissoon at the Demerara High Court on a charge of murder. Hamilton's co-accused, taxi driver 31-year-old Ranachal Singh, was also arraigned. Singh opted to plead guilty to the lesser count of manslaughter, and his sentencing was deferred to September 26, 2022, while a 12-member jury was empaneled for the commencement of a trial for Hamilton on Monday. Police in Region 6 are investigating the suspected drowning of a 40-year-old carpenter of number 47, that should be number 74 village, Upper Quarantine, whose body was found Wednesday morning in a clump of bush hours after he had gone out to catch crabs. Dead is Chandrasar Singh, a father of two. His lifeless body was discovered in thick vegetation at number 73 village, Quarantine. And at this time, we close things off with the page 7 of today's Kaieteur News, dedicated to being blunt. Guyana deserves to experience credible elections. Whenever election time comes around, Guyanese tense up. It is one of the times you get to see people's true colors, as many lean on the side of the party that they believe represents their race. It is no secret that Guyanese election is based on race politics and race voting. But the one thing that can help to calm the situation is citizens believing that the election process is done in a free and fair atmosphere. Truth be told, it is the usual argument of the losing side to claim that the election was rigged or not done fairly, maybe to save face among other supporters. But even as that is the behavior of the politicians, the Guyana Elections Commission, which is tasked with holding elections, must utilize all avenues allowed to it by the law to convince the public that it is doing everything in its power to hold the clean elections. It is not the politicians that they must appease, but the people. Its work must be separate and speak for itself that the body is affiliated with no political party on leaning on their side. As it stands, for GECOM to say it cannot remove the dead and disqualified and thus produce a clean list with only eligible voters cannot be accepted. GECOM has sole responsibility for elections. It cannot therefore put itself in a position where the politicians can use it to justify their defeats. And that brings us to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching